All right, welcome back to another episode of Clean Winners. It is Monday, January 13th. We need like some intro music or something, Kyle. I got my cousin's husband showed me this AI music generator that makes creepily good music.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I'm gonna make a Clean Winners intro music.
Hmm. Well, that's good. And then this is one of the best time of year for the Australian Open. We get to see which sponsors are dressing their athletes up like little boys, or in Adidas's
What?
case, in lobster costumes with the bright red that they've got going on.
Lobster? Oh, I okay. Is it the men and the women too? I saw Schneider
Yeah,
wearing
they're
all
just
red with
all
the
red,
red
all red.
bandana.
Yeah.
And I was
I
like,
watched
what is this dude?
Tsitsipas looked like he belonged on my plate in the coast of Maine. He was in the all red getup.
Yeah, it looked like I was like, I don't know what this is, but it looks like there was some sort of Red Cross relief, and these players are wearing what they got.
Oh, well, I could look like an asshole for just ragging on Adidas there, but in
No,
fairness,
no,
it
that's not
makes
what it is. It's a lobster look. I look at him now, and he kind of has a lobstery look about
yeah,
him. Which speaking of which, he took an L.
which was a good call. I know we had pontificated on that on the pod, and it was nice that that paid off for us.
Yeah, yeah. We probably should have put it in the best bets, but I mean, I think Mickelson was getting frustrated losing some of those matches earlier, and so he was like, "I'm going to come out here firing." Like, and the reality is, he's just outside of seeding territory. So,
Yeah, he also showed some real dog because then in that third set, I think he had to break Tsitsipas 3 times because he broke him to start, then got broken back, broke him again, tossed that away, and then at 4-all had to like sack up and broke him again to put the final dagger in him.
yeah, I Mickelson is unfortunately though a guy who has to break a fair amount. As big as his serve is, he doesn't he gets broken too much.
Yeah, bless you.
I muted myself so nobody knows why you're saying that. They're like, wow, this guy really okay. What can you say? Well, look, I'll go over a few of the picks we made before. Obviously, it was good to start off with the. I was more dialed in than I thought on Hobart. But I'll tell you what, right? Kessler beat Avanesian, but that was an example of one of those where you're never done until you're done. I think she was down a set and a break. I think maybe even 5-4 at one point. So she came back from the dead, right? But that's the thing that you want to see. A lot of times it's about grit, man. So you just got to go out there and want it more, and players are gonna choke a lot. Like it's the Chiefs mentality, man. Like my dad was like, "Oh man, these guys like the Chiefs are so good." They're. I'm like, you do realize that you used to gripe when Federer and Serena would play these players, and they would just choke the matches away, right? Like, and I'm like, that's what the Chiefs do. They just hang around and hope you choke because a lot of guys can't execute. And it's the same thing here. Like, that's all Kessler did was like, you know what? I'm just going to hang around. Eventually, Avanesian kind of choked. So that was a nice one. Mertens was rolling easy. Kessler ended up winning. I think if we were on the pod, I probably would have taken her in the final too. That was another one that was quite the grind. Cartel was the only real disappointment for the women. Ieva was a great call. Towson won. So those were nice. Corda won. Obviously, the Tommy Paul match we talked about. That was maybe the worst match I've seen all year. Both those players are trying to give it away. One point in the second set, Kyle, I took a note here. You're going to like this. FAA was up a set and a break, having made 23 backhand unforced errors.
That's like
And
you and
by
I
a
playing
break, I mean
tennis.
2-0, so it was early. And then later, the script had flipped, and Tommy Paul was up a break, serving 37% first serve in the set. I was like,
Oh
this is
boy.
just awful. It was bad. And, to be honest with you, Tommy Paul struggled in his first round match. He got lucky to get out of there, but we still got two that haven't played yet because 3 days we got to wait for these freaking first rounders, and there was some rain. So you got Caboli against Echeverry and Arnaldi against Musetti. You still haven't played. We're still waiting.
Yeah, it was nice. It was almost like the rain came because you were on vacation. They're like, these guys can't hop on their new pod, so we've got to rain a storm down so that when they come back, they haven't missed that many matches.
I like that. We still got some first rounders, and all the second rounders are queued up. It's not like we missed any second round action, so I'm taking it.
Yeah. So going around the Aussie Open, what matches caught your attention? Any results that jumped off the page as wow, or people you're like, okay, I'm not going to go near them.
So two things. First off, you actually gave me two women's picks before the last pod that I talked you off of. Now, the first one I actually think was the best call. I think you were right, like Dolahide over Beliak, which Dolahide was a dog, and I was like, it's appetizing, but I'd be careful. I was watching the match. She won the first set in a breaker and then was 6-2. And the breaker, I think, was like 7-3. So she was in control. Like once that happened, she was the better player. She imposed her will. It was just about experience and execution. I was like, damn, Kyle was right about this one. I should have taken this. So that one, I got to say, I was wrong to kind of talk off of. The other one you gave me, I actually think, so you gave me Niemeyer over Twalinska. Niemeyer won 0-1 and was up
That's one of those
6-0,
early season
3-0.
wins, I guess.
I think that Twalinska was injured. So she had those brutal
Ah,
qualifying matches, 2 hours 40 or 3 hours and 30 minutes against Salkova, 2 hours and 45 minutes, and then still had to go almost 2 hours against Brenda. Came out, her left leg was all taped up. Dude, she was down 3-0, 4-0 in like 10 minutes. And it's the kind of thing where you don't play, hey, I withdraw, you don't get the prize money or the points. You maybe they give you the prize money, but they don't give you the points. So I think as a player who had to qualify and is still kind of in that lower rung, it's like I just got to go out there and play the match to get the points and the prize money. That's what I felt like because watching it, I was like, there's something not right here, and her left leg was all taped up. So that one, she finished the match. I think most times the players aren't going to play that
yeah.
match.
That's
Uh,
actually funny you mentioned
uh,
that because that was the same thing I noticed in the Landa Loose match against James McCabe. I was watching it. I'd watched that guy all through qualifying, and he and Fonseca were probably like the two best form players going into that challenger, going into the qualifying, and they looked good all 3 rounds. I think Landa Loose had only lost serve one time in the qualifying, and it was actually to serve out James Trotter in the second round. And then in that match against McCabe, he came out and he wasn't moving at game speed. Like it looked like somebody that knew that something was wrong, but as you said, needs the points and probably keeps some sponsors happy.
I think I got to look it up, but I noticed a few because immediately, and I actually thought the same thing. I was watching Landaluz. I was like, something looks a little wrong with him here. So I wasn't entirely certain, but I think those two were certainly ones that I was like, you know, interested in. I did like the way Clara Towson played because Noskova was not slouching in the first set. And I was a little nervous. I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. Like she looked so good before, but came out 3 and 4, just played better, right? And she gets lucky. She gets to play Tatiana Maria, who beat Bernarda Pera.
Hmm.
So sure, she'll run into the buzzsaw of Sabalenka in the third round, but that's a pretty good showing for someone who's still unseeded. And here's another one that I liked. We're going to go over her plays. I liked the way Magdalena Freck played because Polina Kudermetova was obviously on a heater, right? Had gotten to the
Yep.
finals of Adelaide, I think, and took a set off Sabalenka.
Yes.
And it was like, oh my God, dude. So I was impressed there. But again, dude, if you don't have a long break like that, or you don't have a easy first round like Sabalenka. Sorry, Sloane Stevens, you're now kind of easy first round food. But if you don't have that, it can be tough. Like the hangover from having played a tournament before, having gone the distance to win one.
Yeah. On the men's side, a match that I flagged as more of an important bar as to where they're at was Jack Draper coming through in 5 sets against the clay dog Navone.
Oh,
Uh,
Navoni was playing well though.
yeah, and not just because like it was a 5 set win. Draper, a lot of these British guys have been famous for having all the talent in the world, but like Kyle Edmund, never putting together a full bill of health and often
Mm,
cramping up in the 5 sets.
I hate that.
And Draper's had a history of that. So to see him come through looking fresh against Navone was huge. I like the way that Fernley looked. I
I
think
knew
he's
you were
got.
gonna like Fernley.
I think he's got one of the tastiest second round matches because one of the best matches I watched for everything that a Grand Slam is was Kazao versus Baez. Those were two first
Oh,
round. That was a first round grinder match where Kazao, if everybody remembers, had that magical fourth round run last year, so defending a
mm-hmm,
lot of points versus
mm-hmm.
maybe one of the fittest guys on tour. And Kazao was up a set and a break cruising. Then all of a sudden, I flipped the channel thinking easy 3 set win, Baez on hard court, scrub a dub dub. I blinked and Kazao was down 2 sets to one. And the way that he bounced back was enormous.
I figured you would like that one. Yeah, dude. Okay. So Kazal's another guy. I've seen him enough to be like, you know what? This guy has the skill set to be a top 20 player.
Yeah, his health, he's another one that like he's never had a full season yet where he hasn't been like, because even after the Australian Open, he gets to the fourth round, then he goes to Montpellier and immediately gets hurt. And like that can stagnate your progress. And then for the pod listeners, our little call on Tabilo with a poor season is looking like it's going to come is coming good here. He did not look good whatsoever against
Terrible.
the lungs of Carbeas Baena, who has a beautiful career of just making the tennis ball, but Tabilo looked the shadow of the guy that won Auckland last year.
Tabio has always seemed like a guy who's going to be wild, and I was impressed he had as good of a season as he did. But it like the Tabio season kind of felt like a Bouchard-esque thing where it's like, okay, I'm just waiting for you to go back to being in the 60s to 80s in the rankings, and that's kind of it for you. So I guess we're gonna see. But yeah,
Uh,
we'll see.
yeah, season's long, but he's gonna need to find some answers quick. And then
Okay.
condolences need to go to Vield. He's now been on the losing side of two of the best first
Oh
round
yeah.
matches at a Grand Slam. That is got to be a tough way to exit Australia. Both times losing a dagger in a fifth set.
I felt bad for him. I felt bad. I was like, this guy's actually playing hard. He's good. Like, but again, those are the kind of matches you
You got
want
to
to
win.
win. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're supposed to win. If you want to be a top 40 guy, you got to win those matches. So I'm not sold on it. So here's one question I didn't see. I didn't realize Brooksby had come back.
yeah. He came back and announced he has autism. I think simultaneously.
Okay. Well, is that why he was juicing or?
No, but I think he was like, a lot of people hate me, and it's probably like not fair. So I've got to let people know what's going on.
Well, I don't like him because he was juicing.
I didn't like him because he just seemed like a bit of a prick on the court. Like
Oh,
if I
so he was addressing people like you who are just
yeah,
being jerks.
if I gotta call
Well
a spade a
played,
spade,
pal.
he just never seemed like the nicest guy on court. And maybe it makes more sense now, and I'll give him some leniency.
I was like, who was hating this guy? You know, he had autism. They were just being jerks to him. And here we are, the man himself, Kyle
Hand up
McCann.
accountability. I remember my buddy Derek sent me that Instagram story, and I was like, "Oh, dude, now I've got to apologize for just a year and a half of get Brooksby off my fucking television. I can't stand this prick."
Oh my God, dude. Wow. Well, hey, look, I'm glad that makes sense to someone because I didn't even know this. But it I'll be curious to see how he plays. Unfortunately for him, he drew Fritz. So
Yeah, although if it like because he's such a question mark, I kind of want to look at games in that one because Brooksby, like from what I remember,
it's
is
not over 100 games.
the kind of crafty guy that could really test somebody like Fritz in the opening rounds of a Grand Slam.
Oh, I was still on mute. Let me see. I got to check these games. Also, he hasn't played in a while, so we don't really know what he has. Yeah, but I don't know, man. Fritz has been getting better and better. Like Fritz has the mentality that Tommy Paul needs. I actually look at Tommy Paul and think off his racket, the ball has more. Like there's more juice. Like there's more talent level when the ball comes off his racket and what he can do with it. But I just don't think he's as much of a like mentality guy as Fritz, which is wild too, because you look at Fritz and like his whole background, you're like, this guy's gonna be soft. And then turns out he's actually pretty good. So I've always kind of been surprised by that
Yeah,
from Fritz.
I'm gonna start because one, I need to remember what Brooksby plays like. I just remember him being like a crafty scamper who's not afraid to mix up the pace and whatnot. And in the first rounds of a slam, that can prove difficult. But then again, we don't know. I don't know where his lungs are, so it could be very much like the first set 7-5, and then we tune back in, and Fritz has gone like 2-2 in the third and second and third.
Yeah, something like that. Like he wins his first round or something. So or his first set, and then he's kind of like Nishesh did with Djokovic. Like somebody was texting me. And well, and I was like, it's not weird. I was like, we've seen Djokovic in the first round of some slams come out a little slow, and the Shesh is feeling good. He's playing a lot of warm up tournaments, playing well. He's
Not a big
totally
scouting book
relaxed.
on him, like not a big scouting book on him yet. So you're still trying to
Exactly. And
figure
then
it
it's
out.
like, and then Djokovic is like, okay, that you had your fun.
Yeah, I am one
I'm
of the
I'm
best
twice
players
your age,
ever.
but I'm still gonna house you in these next three sets. Yeah, I so good for Nishash, but it kind of is what it is on that one. I was like, yeah, I'd
Yeah.
be and here's another one for you that I was disappointed, who I think is gonna have a down season. Let's throw this one in there before we get into picks. I don't know what's going on with Struff, man, but it's not the ways of winning. That is for
Oh,
sure.
I will. So I will say that when we talk Struff, I don't think that there's a normal season for him because of the way that he plays tennis. There is going to be weeks where he looks a shadow of himself, and then there's going to be other weeks where it comes together. I think that high risk, high reward, um, kind of stuff just lends itself to a guy. If you look at his like career win loss, he's sub 500, and I think that's a guy that goes through patches. He'll be hoping, like Bublik, that he makes up a lot of points on the European indoor swing prior to the Master 1000s and
I
beyond.
guess.
Because
I also think
like
he's
Bublik,
34 and you're starting. Okay, so I think we get spoiled by the idea that Nadal and Djokovic and Federer plan to 37, 38, 36. Like, that's not common. Typically, after 34, 35, it becomes tougher.
yeah,
And like, we see a lot of these guys struggle at that point. And I think, Struff is a bigger guy too. I just like taller. So I just think he may be starting to get to that point where like he's in his twilight. I don't know how much he has left, and I don't know that I trust him to start treeing on European indoors.
yeah.
He got
There's
bageled
two.
by
I
FAA in the
know,
second
but
set.
there's two surfaces that like lend himself to being able to play tennis the way he wants to, and I think the indoor and the grass. If he goes through like Montpellier and tournaments like that and struggles, or the grass season, we'll know that Struff is truly in the twilight. Too early uh with him. Although I'm not going to be betting on him for the foreseeable future, so that take that as you will.
Yeah, well, I have no interest in getting involved with him from a betting perspective for
Well,
any reason, as far as that goes. And it's funny you said that he has a career losing record. And, I mean, and look, another one I want to bring up here for you. The year Riley Opelka got from 40 to 26, he also had a losing record, right? So, like, guys can do that. You can have a losing record and your ranking can still be good.
yeah, because what Struff got to, was it last year he got to the finals of a Masters 1000, or was that 2 years ago? So
I think 2 years ago.
he's been buoyed by showing up in big tournaments. So his ranking is a little inflated, I reckon. But we'll see as the year goes on. Another match I wanted to touch on before picks. I think second round of the tournament is going to be this Mukova versus Osaka match.
Still on mute. That's going to be a feature match, dude. That is going to
Yeah.
be a feature match.
They might
And
wheel Johnny Mack out there to give us some
oh
enthralling
no.
commentating.
Some of the commentators they trot out for these, it's like weekend at Bernie's with some of these guys like Cliff Drysdale. I'm like, listen, man, this guy is like he was a legend, but it's a little too old sometimes. There's nothing there other than just like the hype memories of the past. I don't get it. So I wish that Johnny Mack sometimes is a little too long in the tooth too. I was watching some match. I think it was Mattia Bellucci. Johnny Mack's just like ripping on him. He's like, "Look at his results. He's a challenger guy. He's treeing." I was like, "Oh my god, dude, Johnny Mack is a little old." But I guess I respect that aspect that he's willing to say what he thinks. But too often, it's too much saying what he thinks.
Yeah, too often it's like he forgets that just because you're a 150th ranked player, I think in the big picture, you're the 150th best player in the world of all tennis players, and you need to be spoken about more than just like postman Pat got a tennis racket and showed up in Australia sort of
Well,
situation.
also back in his day was different, right? Like I
True.
do think that if you're the 150 guy back in that day, you're probably
You
not the
could be
same
postman
level.
Pat,
Yeah,
but
it's
he's
not
been a
the same level.
commentator for what, 20 something years. You got to
Yeah.
roll with how the game changes, or let's get more like James Blake on the old telecast.
I like the Harvard Hammer, dude. They need him on more stuff. Him and Chanda Rubin, dude, the Raging Cajun. These are some of my favorite commentators. And yet I'm struggling getting like, Pam or I don't know, some of these other people. I don't want to get too into the tennis commentators, but it's like it is what it is. And you know who another one I don't think is going to have a great year is Caroline Garcia. That's who Osaka beat in the first
But
round.
has she is she like in the conversation that we can feel like she's gonna have a bad year? Hasn't she been slumping for like wasn't all of last year considered the slump year?
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to improve.
No.
Like I'm not convinced
Like
that
at
it's
what
going to
point does she
improve for
commit
her.
back to just playing doubles?
So dude, this time last year she was ranked 19, and then well, she hasn't played since Guadalajara, I guess. So I'm wondering if she had a lot of points to defend there, like how she dropped from 30 to 67. But I don't know. I think she should just. She's also 31, right? So I think it's you give it 2 more years, and then you're like, I can just make enough money playing doubles and winning a ton of matches here. So I don't know, but I do think Osaka is going to be a prime second round match. I don't know if you want to get into the picks with that one here because I know you had some takes here. The way you were starting off, dude, there was going to be a lot of spice in your sauce today for some of these second round picks.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to touch on I'm gonna get started with the picks. I'm going to be looking at games for Nakashima versus Shelton. I
Oh,
think that has all the
oh
potential
right,
to be a 5 set match. As a
five
spicy
setter. Well,
as a
Shelton's
as a
unreliable.
as a spicy take. I think it's going to be a 5 setter.
Didn't Nakashima have to go like four in his first round? I didn't look at these guys' first round.
Is that not a first round?
Oh,
Did
it
I?
is.
Yeah,
God, I keep
my bad. I
forgetting.
said second round. Sorry. Yeah,
No,
that's
I
a
keep
first. That's
forgetting.
a
Yeah.
that's a first round match.
Well, Shelton didn't look good in Auckland.
No,
I
he.
mean, I guess he managed to go 3 sets with Mensick, but he didn't look good. He's doing too much Shelton stuff still. It's like I don't understand. Your dad's a coach. Shouldn't he stop you from doing like this wild slappy business or
That's
you
got
know
to be.
the
Sometimes it's got to be hard though when you have that much natural talent to rein it in.
yeah, that's true. There's like you have that urge. You have that Evan Hahn urge, dude, to slap the ball. You know what he said to me the other day? Well, when I say the other day, the last time I was playing months ago, I was hitting the ball, I was slapping the ball. He's like, "Why don't you hit like this all the time?" I'm like, "Are you high?" Like, A, I'd get tired. B, when my opponent inevitably makes the ball, I have less time to cover the court. Like, and C, I'm just gonna miss. Like, what are you on, dude? Evan Hahn thinks that just because he can unload on the ball, that everybody else can, and these slappers do it the same way. Shelton, Shapovalov, like Rublev, these guys just can't help themselves. They can't rein it in. Speaking of Rublev, dude, I saw he was taking a little action. He still hasn't played his first round match against Fabulous Fonseca today.
He hasn't. Has the market given any more fluff to Fabulous
He's
Fonseca?
actually, it's been Rublev taking a little bit of money. I
Oh,
saw that Fonseca opened plus 110. Now I see him at plus 120, and Rublev was minus 130, minus 145. So I think at a match like that, I told you they were going to take a lot of action. But if you
yeah.
made Fonseca plus 175, your action would be way too much on Fonseca. So I think they were hoping to take some Fonseca action, but maybe not too much. I don't know. I mean, do you really think Rublev is going to lose that match? Or like has a chance to lose the match? Because Fonseca was playing really well, but it has been three
I
days since he
I I
last played.
do think Rublev has a shot at losing that match. I don't think this is the same that this is the same Rublev of
No,
past
no,
years.
it is not. And I look at Fonseca. He's won how many? You know how many matches in a row he's won?
Well, so he won that challenger, so that's 5 matches. Four at the next gen, that's 9. Did he win a challenger at the end of the year to put him towards like 13 matches in a row?
13 matches. God, you're such a dog, dude. I need a Kyle McCann award to just reach in the bag and dig deep. He's lost 2 matches in his last like 20, and he's won 13 matches in a row. So I guess my question is like, is it good? And his last matches, dude, he has not dropped a set over his last 8 matches. And he beat McDonald, Fernley, Quinn. Well, Coleman Wong isn't really much of a threat anymore.
Yeah, but
Tiago
it's
Augustine
still it's
Durante,
still
he's decent.
matches.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are still matches.
He
So
hasn't dropped a set.
Yeah, it's honestly at this point, it's the same question. I remember we were asking this when Nishesh was going to play Mickelson. It's like, are the lights going to be too bright? Like when he gets onto that main court, this is the first time that Fabulous Fonseca, I believe, is going to be playing like a top 10 player with all the results that he's had. So how does he rein in his aggressive style if it gets a little nervy? That's why I would say that Rublev has an edge there because he's at least got the experience of winning those matches. But if Fonseca gets an early break, I think it could be good night Irene, and we could be looking at a big upset.
Could be. Yeah. I wonder if the break is better or worse for him, right? After resting, because he played that match, I don't know what, Thursday?
Yeah, he is a kid, so I feel like he's just running off the youngster adrenaline now.
Yeah, that's why I think the break is actually not good for him, right? He wants to keep it
Yeah,
going. I guess. I mean, I'm trying to see
it's
how much of a break he had between the next gen and the Canberra. Oh, it
he
was two
must have
weeks,
had like a
so
yeah, it was a decent amount of time. That's one like we could talk in circles on this one. The
yeah,
thing that
that's
would
true.
stop me from betting on it is it's not the same Rublev, and I've never seen Fonseca play somebody within the top 20. So I kind of want to see how his game style translates because a lot of those names that you've just ripped off that he's won in 13 matches in a row are right in and around the ranking that I would expect that he should be beating or comfortable against.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, I don't think 120 is not enough for me. If it was plus 175, I'd be like, listen, we got to take a flyer on this guy, right? But I mean, and I would consider taking a flyer on the games too, but they've handicapped it appropriately, I think, on the games. It's 40.5. So they expect it to go at least four tight sets, is what that's telling me.
And then, so as the new WTA expert, I'm going to ask you, Maya Sharif versus Diana Yastermenko. Do we see any value in taking a sniff?
Yastremska, what is Yaster? What are you saying?
Well, you know what? They don't teach me how to read in Texas. So Sharif versus the fiery Ukrainian. Let's do
I
that.
guess you never got hooked on phonics over there, huh?
No, no, we skipped a few, and I got Irish parents, so that we don't really like English
What
isn't
does that mean?
really.
That's like a bastion of literature, the Green Isle here. Only
Uh,
you.
well, they might be taking my passport away when they just witnessed how I slaughtered their language.
Oh
So Sharif, though, do we see any value there?
boy, it's plus 175.
Dead
That's
on, yeah.
right at the threshold. Like if you told me, I told you before this, if you told me, okay, it's plus 210, plus 215, well, you have to take that, right? It's too much value. I told you I thought about with Ujijima in the first round, not because I actually thought she was going to beat Lynette, though she did, but plus 210 is too much. She's consistent, right? And I think the thing is, part of this is you have to look at it the other way sometimes in the WTA. You may look at something like, I don't really know if I like it plus 175. But then you think about it if you were looking at it the other way, and it's would I take Yastremska minus 215 against Meyer Sharif? Absolutely not. And sometimes betting against the absolutely not is actually the way to go, right? We've had a few of those where it's like, I'm absolutely not going to do that. And then it turns out it's because the other play was right. I do think that it could be a games play too.
I
21
You
and a
did
half
mention
or
that.
21. Yeah. I would consider going on the games because I think it's going to be close. What you don't want here is some sort of Yastremska tree or Myra Sharif takes a collapse in the third set, right? And you're like, oh my God, she wins the first set and then doesn't find a way home. I'm trying to look real quick. Let me look at her last matches. So she did do well. She won a 125, but it was on clay, right? And I think she's been playing better. I think a lot of her good results come on clay. She
Okay.
lost three hard court matches in a row to Pliskova, Yana Fett, and Wang Xinyu. Not players I trust.
Yeah, only one of those I would say I would put in a trust-ish category.
Exactly. I mean, and I'm saying right now, and I don't know, is does Pliskova even? I guess she does still play. I was like, I haven't seen her in a long time. So to me, I like Sharif. I think she's going to make her work for it, but I don't think that plus 175 is enough for me to think she's going to get over the line on a hard court. If this was on a clay court and I saw that line, we wouldn't be having this discussion. The bet would already be in.
Could I ask you a big question? The odds are too great for me to bet on it.
Hmm.
Lulu Sun in her first round against Kovinic. Um, do we think that the market is just looking at the Wimbledon run from Sun and giving her extreme odds?
Yeah. I mean, I don't trust Lulu Son. And you look at her results since then, and it really hasn't
She
been
had
very
one
good.
tournament win.
Yeah, really hasn't
That's
been
all
very
I know.
good.
Yeah.
That being said, I mean, Danka Kovinic has got to be, I mean, one of the players I want no part of it. I think there was a match she was playing, got beaten straight sets by Sarah Saito the last round, who Sarah Saito's a good player. She's 18 years old. You know, ranked like 200.
I'm just
I don't
struggling to
know
see why they've got Lulu Sun at such big odds.
because
Um,
Kovinic is not good.
okay, fair enough.
But I agree with you. It's possible that the odds, like, if you're gonna sit at your computer, if you're gonna be an online bettor and you're gonna sit at your computer and you're gonna be able to like cash out on some site, and you take Kovinic plus 850 and she like manages to win the first set, and then you can cash your bet out, I would do that. I would think maybe the games too.
Yeah. I was
Um,
just that's going to be one to look at. One, I was like, Lulu Sun captured all of our hearts with her run, and then I hadn't heard from her since. So when I saw those odds, I was immediately like, I got to run this by our WTA expert to see.
well, I wonder if did Kovinic get a wild card? How did she get in here? Because she's ranked like 1,300, dude. She's basically unranked. She had
Oh,
been
so protected ranking?
hurt. Yeah, maybe. Let me look real quick on the draw to see. Let me double check this before I see. Kovinic used to be a decent player, but then I saw she had been back and was losing every single match. So I was like, I don't. I'm just confused. Actually, I don't know how. I'm maybe it is protecting me. It doesn't say that though. Usually it says PR next to them. So let me check one more thing and see if I can see. Uh, yeah. That being said, maybe 850 is worth a play. Like,
Yeah. If like I think that's one, like you said, I don't actively sit at the computer. I tend to cat to
yeah. Why would you
take
want
a
to?
bet and see how it goes. Another one that I'm interested in, mostly because I wanted to see if doubles success translate to singles success. I like Katie McNally at plus 105 versus Kracheva tonight, or when they play.
Plus, what are her odds? Plus what?
Plus 105 versus Vavara Kracheva.
Oh God, you love to ask me about players who are just not reliable. Hmm. I have to see how
I like
McNally's been doing. I like the way she plays objectively, right?
Yeah, that's why I was making the plays. I've watched her a lot when her and Coco Gauff first broke on the scene. I believe they were doubles partners for a bit. And anytime they were playing together, I was like, I really like just how offensive and willing to step into the court McNally is.
Okay, so here's something good, right? Now, these are all so she's McNally must be a wild card because she's ranked like 500.
Yeah, I think she was out injured all last year.
She was out injured since Wimbledon 2023 and then came back January 2024. Couldn't play again from February to November, and her ranking was completely tanked. But she played a fit like a challenger, like a
Yeah, I
50
see that.
challenger in December.
She won the 50.
It is on clay though, and she was beating a lot of, some like losing to Carol Zhao makes me concerned, right? Like on a hard court. It was in November, so maybe she was coming back. It was 3 sets, but those are the kind of things I look at. It
Three
makes me
sets against
nervous.
Alicia Park.
Grasheva's not a bad player. She's ranked inside Showcase 69, your favorite ranking. And she's not bad. Like she went 3 sets against Fernandez in Tokyo, but has also lost to Camila Osorio in straight sets. And I don't think plus 105 is enough for me to take it. I think I'm going to have to
Okay,
watch it and see how they play and then use that for the next round.
fair enough. All right, we've pontificated about a lot of matches here. Let's bring it into our best bet selection. Who are you seeing that you would like to bring to the window, Mr. Peters?
So let me see here. Uh, you go first. I'm still deciding on two of them,
Okay.
and I'm
One of
gonna
the
want your
ones
input on one when I go. So,
Gotcha. One of the ones I'm taking is I'm going Jacob Bencic. This is a second round match.
hmm
I'm making a distinction there. Jacob Bencic against Casper Ruud.
hmm
Bencic been in form, and I watched the Munar Ruud match, and Ruud looked like he was having all the same problems he has in the big hardcore tournaments that I see him play.
yeah,
He's easy to get through it. Looked like Munar, who I didn't know had such a good net game, was when he was clicking, coming forward was giving Ruud all sorts of headaches. And I think with Mensic's game, I think there's real value there. So I'm going to play that.
Mensick. I'm writing this down. Yeah.
I've got two rollovers. I've still got Arnaldi and Caboli, as you mentioned.
Okay.
Um, and then I'm going to play Morozan versus Tiafo
I was gonna ask you
in the
about
second round
Fabian,
match.
dude. Plus
Yeah.
170 are that those are nice odds to
Yeah,
me.
Tia, and then here's another reason. Tiafo was struggling. He did throw up in the fourth set against Rinderknech
I don't get it with that guy.
and was struggling with his, I think his abdominal muscle for a little
What?
bit in that. So I'm not sure if he's going to be at 100%. And I've bet against Marzan twice, and both times he's
He's
come
burned
out and
you.
win. So this time it's like, make me some money or go away, son.
Ah, there it is. You're finally getting that mentality where it's like, get me that money or just go home. Okay, I like that. So you have, let's see, just those two, Mensick
Those
and
are my two for now. I was going to go
okay.
two, you give two, and then if I see some more while I scroll here, I might bring it to the
I
table
like
for
that.
you.
Okay, so here's what I'm think here's what I want your input on. Let me write this down so I make sure we have it. And I don't know, like I could be off base here. Nishikori plus 200 versus Tommy Paul. They both had to go 5 sets though.
So here's my worry with Nishikori. Um, Body fatigue. The last
Yeah.
time he did
Oh
go
yeah.
5 sets at Roland Garros,
hmm
granted that is clay, he did pull out in the next round. And I think the lack of free points will really begin to stack up against him. And Tommy Paul, I think, has a higher ceiling to play better. Because I don't think that we've seen the Tommy Paul of last year yet. So I'd be nervous betting that one. I'd take a look at games because I don't think it's going to be an easy one. Uh,
I could maybe get behind some games on that too. And again, some of these games bettings we're getting into a little more and we'll see. So here's one more I want your opinion on. Bublik plus 135 versus Cerundolo.
Actually, when I was talking with friends, I told them to take a flyer on Bublik. I wouldn't quantify it as the best bet because you've
Yeah.
just brought two of the most unreliable
Oh yeah.
ATP player results to the table. But I think when Bublik's on, he is one of the hardest players on tour to beat. So it just kind of matters which Bublik are you getting.
Yeah, that's fair. You never really know with him. Here's one more for you. Camilo, Ugo Carabelli. I think it's Ugo. He's plus 350 versus Lerner TN.
I think I think I would put that in a spicy dog play. I like Lerner's game, but I think that those odds are like fluffing the new young guy on the block.
Yeah, to me, that seems outsized on the odds. But I think it's spicy. It's a little too far out of there, in
Yeah.
my opinion, to do it. So I think for me, man, it's painful. I was considering Nuria Perez Diaz versus Eva Jovic. She's a really good player from Torrance too. I think that plus 125 is probably not enough, but I don't really want to get behind that. So there's not as many as I would like to see in here. So I think I'm gonna have to reach in for some dogs. I want your opinion on one more before I rip mine, and that's Osorio versus Zachary, because I know you were like Zachary will beat the players you expect her to beat. So I was curious about this one.
They've played before, haven't they?
Osorio and Zachary, maybe.
Let me
That's
double
one I
check
actually
there.
did not check. I
So
checked so many others.
she leads the head to head 2-0. But the last time they played, Osorio retired due to an injury. I just think that's another match that on paper Zachary should win, and she tends to never burn you when it's somebody that she should beat. Where I start to have problems with Zachary is when she comes up at matches where I'm like, that could be 50-50. Or it's a match where it's like Zachary's the underdog. She tends to not deliver, which has been something that like even in that rubbish Netflix full whatever they called the tennis thing, she was t-
Oh
she was
yeah.
she was talking about how she was getting a lot of stick from the press because she doesn't show up in those big matches. But in these early rounds, I'm usually feeling pretty safe betting Sakari or
All right.
Sakari.
I think I'll probably stay away. So I have two. I have two here. The first one is spicy. I'm gonna take Angelina Kalinina plus 170 versus Jabor.
Okay.
And I think I would also take the over on games there. I don't see how either player wins it in straight sets.
Hmm.
Just to me, right? I don't know. Like that seems a little odd to me that it's going to be a straight sets. They played once before on hard court and Jabor won and it was three tight sets. So I think Kalinina is playing really well. I think plus 170 is worth it for me. I'm going to go ahead and take a flyer there. I think I'm also going to take the over on games. So again, it makes me a little nervous because, obviously anyone can play, but I think the over on games actually safer than maybe the money line. I think the money line is a little spice, but I have a double play on that one. Honestly, I
I
was
like
watching a
that.
lot of Kalinina and Jabor. Yeah,
Jabor
I'm
never
feeling
really
good about
seems
that
to
one.
beat people convincingly.
No,
I've got a spicy play I'm going to bring to the table.
okay,
Uh, Mostly because I've ridden for her before.
okay.
I really like Dolahide versus Svitolina. I think Svitolina has struggled with her health, and didn't look as good as she could last year. And Dolahide shows up in big matches.
What are the odds on that?
Dolahide's at plus 250.
Whoa, plus 250.
So I'm just like that's the borderline between best bet and spicy bet, but I'm going to take a flyer on her because she's impressed me uh, both times that I've tuned in and actively been cheering for her.
Dolahide's one of those players who I thought she was going to be really good really quickly and then kind of was slow and then has been getting consistently better, dude. She played a really good tournament in Guangzhou last year and lost in the finals. Not sure. I think she was just tired because she had to qualify, but she's been playing better since that tournament. She was struggling at the end of last year, losing like getting 6-4, 6-0 by Wang Xinyu. You're like, what?
Yeah,
But then comes out and does that and has been playing better since. So I certainly think it's worth a flyer because I mean, Svitolina is good, but she's not quite the same as she used to be when she was at her top form. Here's another one for you. I think I'm gonna go. Oh God, these degenerate prop bettors, dude. They whisper in your ear, and they tickle your lobe, and they make you want to do it. I'm I'm gonna go over on the games for Madison Keys and Ann Lee 19 games. I'm gonna go over those games. They've
I
never
don't hate
played
that.
before. They've
I
never
don't hate
played
it.
before.
Early round of a slam, like funky shit
Mhm.
happens. I think I ride with that.
And Madison Keys played the Adelaide tournament and beat Pagula in three sets in the finals. So she's had to win a lot of matches in a row.
Yeah.
So I can't believe I'm taking two over games. Like it is
Yep.
what it is. I think I'm also gonna put a rather large dog in here, or not large dog, rather large favorite again, which makes me nervous. But I told you before I thought these players are going to do well in the tournament. Schneider won her first round match, so let's keep the train a rolling. I'm going to take Putin Sava minus 230 over Avanesian.
Ooh, I thought you were gonna go the other way, to be honest
No.
with you. I was looking at that and I was like, I thought Avanesian has looked good and Putinaseva is somebody that I could see being upset early, but we'll see. I might just go and watch that one special for you.
Hey, take it over. So they've only played once before when they were both ranked 75, 70 something, and Putin Sava won 1-4.
Ooh,
And
okay.
so that's part of the reason I'm taking it. I I don't think that Putin Sava is like She lost to Pagula in the semis of Adelaide, and then lost to Sabalenka in Brisbane. So like, I look at the matches she's lost over the last few months, and like, I mean, she lost to Paulini in the U.S. Open, Amanda Anisimova, Osaka, Sabalenka, Kasatkina, Sabalenka, Pagula. Like those are her losses. And you go even further back when she made it to Wimbledon, she got Ostapenko and lost to Badosa, like and Badosa twice, Swiatek, Rybakina. I don't see Avanesian in that win column with those
That's
other
fair.
players. So I think that's the form that I'm looking at here. And so I'm going to go ahead and take a flyer minus 230. It's big juice, but I got to back my thought process earlier.
Yeah,
So
no,
those are mine.
put yourself in the arena. I think the last match that I'm bringing to my take column here is I'm going to put some money on Kazao versus Fernley.
You're a
Um,
dog, dude.
I last year I really liked the way he played in Australia. I think this game showed me a lot. There was a lot of potential for him to go the magnificent French way and throw the toys out the pram, start smoking a dart on the sidelines, and just check out against
What
Baez.
are you talking?
But he showed up and he got through. And I just, there's a lot to be said about a guy that can do that for me. And I like him over
You like guys
Fernley.
that can do that stuff for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And then one more interesting one. And I'll run this by you. I'm considering a hate bet on Riley Opelka at plus 185 versus Mahach.
Dude, I was gonna ask you that. That was gonna be my last one. I was like, I'm gonna end with one more that make me money or go home.
Yeah, I genuinely think and I love Mahach for obvious reasons, but I just think it's two of the most injury prone players playing each other, and Opelka is an absolute pain in the ass to play in the first round of Grand Slam. And I think that the odds are good enough that I can say, please make me something, or I will not bring up Opelka's name on this podcast again.
That's fair. I could honestly, as long as he's healthy, because obviously he withdrew from the last match, so it's like
And I will
okay.
say, Mahach did retire against France and was stating that he had struggled with something in the offseason as well on his Instagram story when he did that complimentary I lost. So now I must go to my Instagram and let people know exactly why I retired.
Whatever. Yeah, I think I'm gonna hate bet him too.
Yeah. Okay. So we're in unison. So that's a new category hate bet.
Hate bet.
Opelka,
We can't put that
Opelka
one in the best bets.
185.
That's a
Yeah.
hate bet.
Yeah. If we
Opelka.
put that in our best bets, we'd just end this podcast and be very upset with each other. So that's a new category we're bringing out.
Hate bet. Just where you're tired of getting burned by him, and it's like I can't watch you anymore. So at least compensate me for the abuse. So let me read these out. If these are the best bets we got a lot, dude. Over
Yeah, I
two
mean,
days
welcome,
here.
welcome, welcome to a Grand Slam, people. There's a
Oh no.
lot of different directions we can
Well,
go in.
today's episode was longer because of that. I imagine if I don't know if we're gonna do one tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. I don't know how your schedule is. He's a hard man to pin down.
On
He's a
Tuesday, I
squirrely
could be, I
figure.
could, I could be working from the parking lot of the Orange County Library again to make sure we
Boy,
pump out a podcast episode.
I think you got to be careful about sitting in the public library parking lot with your computer open. I'm just
So you
saying.
say so. Here's the key thing. What listeners don't know is Simon will tell me there's 5 minutes to recording, and I know that I've got about 30 minutes before he's ready. So I read a book in the parking lot in the meantime.
Oh, I bet you did. You picked that
Uh,
magazine up from the 7-Eleven, have to show ID before you got it. As long as you're not within 100 yards of a school, I think you should be okay.
Jesus.
Just making sure, man. You don't want to get that tap on the window.
Oh
Uh,
boy. Oh boy. All right. Going back into our best bets category here. Who do we got, Simon?
all right, I'm gonna read it out here. You got Mensick versus Rude. That's probably your number one confidence?
Yeah, number one confidence. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. Mensick versus Rude, Marjan versus Tiafo plus 170. And then you also have Kazao versus Fernley minus 105.
Yeah, I took Kizao there. And then I've got Dolahide at plus I'm gonna play Dolahide.
Plus one plus 250. Oh, that's going in best bets. I like that. Okay, I like that a lot actually. So you got four 5, and only one is technically not a dog, dude. Okay, and then for me, I have Kalinina plus 170 against Jabor, making me nervous. The over on games 21, I think is what I see. 21 and a half, I'd still play it. Keys versus Lee, I'm going over 19 games. And then Putin Sava versus Avanisi on minus 230. So I've got some bets in there that are a little exotic, maybe more so than I'm used to. But I think second and third round we could really have some slammers as you start to see how these players are playing.
And then in the hate bet category, we have Riley Opelka at plus
Riley
185.
Opelka, yeah. I almost put Burrow in today, but
I thought you might. I saw her odds and I was like, her and Opelka might get their own segment on this
I
week on
wanted
hate
to,
bets.
but the moment I do it, dude, she's gonna lose in some third set
Yeah.
super or something, because she had to qualify. I don't know. And Kalinskaya, I don't trust. So I'm just gonna watch that match, and
Yep.
then whatever happens, I guarantee you there will be a play in the next round on them. All right, I think that's all we got then today. All right, best of luck with any you guys get to the window with. That's it for today.